A body was found hanging from a signal tower at an altitude of 1894 m in a mountain hall. Detective Forst quickly arrived at the scene to investigate. The case also shocked the prosecutor because there had been no serious incidents in the town for many years. According to the investigation, there were no fingerprints left at the scene, and the perpetrator had completely erased all traces. Forst climbed the signal tower to observe the body, but suddenly discovered a coin in the victim's mouth. Some images flashed in his mind. Memories that had long faded made him unable to recall any details about the coin. At the same time, a local female reporter was also present at the scene. In order to avoid causing panic among the people, Forst told the camera that this was a case of the victim doing something foolish. However, the female reporter was not easily fooled. Based on Forst's reaction, she judged that this was definitely a mysterious murder case. After leaving the scene, Forst asked informants to investigate the coin's clues, including buyers, sellers, and coin collectors. After all, the coin's appearance in the victim's mouth was no coincidence. Her informant was a police forensic pathologist. The two had maintained a secret working relationship for many years. Then Forst and the police chief went to the morgue. The victim was an old man with broken bones and a rope tied around his neck in a professional knot. The forensic pathologist speculated that he had been brutally tortured and murdered. The bones had probably been broken before, as a simple hanging would not have caused such a condition. At that moment, another body was discovered. This time, the victim was tied up with a coin in his mouth and tied in the same knot as the first victim. Forst understood that this was a serial killer. The female reporter also immediately went to the scene to continue the investigation. She reminded Forst that if they did not quickly find the culprit, he would definitely continue to commit these inhuman acts. Forst was informed by the sergeant that a new detective would take over the case, because he had made a mistake in handling the case 2 years ago, which resulted in the death of a young boy. Currently, there was a lot of public pressure, so they were forced to change the detective in charge of the investigation. After that, Forst got into the female reporter's car and decided to cooperate with her to investigate. The two went to a bar to meet a special forensic informant. According to this person, there was an Ori gold coin in the victim's mouth. A local pawn shop had sold it 3 years ago. The buyer of the coin remained anonymous. Based on that clue, the female reporter also said that she had investigated and found that the victim at the signal tower was named Charlie. Charlie was not a local. This was the only clue they had so far. At that moment, Forst suddenly felt dizzy. He stood up to drive home, but fainted before getting in the car. So the female reporter had to take him back to his residence. The next day, Forst's colleague sitting next to him in the office happened to investigate the second victim. Based on the data on the phone, he confirmed the victim's name was Maya and wrote down her address. Forst immediately went to Maya's house. Maya's boyfriend said that they had been in love for 4 years. Through his introduction, Forst looked at the photos hanging on the wall and learned that the person who took them was Maya's grandfather. After that, Forst and the female reporter sneaked into Charlie's house and found a group photo hidden behind a painting. At this time, the security force discovered it and almost arrested both of them, but they were lucky to escape and take the photo with them. The next day, another body was found. Forst took the opportunity to sneak into the scene. This victim was also naked and tied up. This time, the killer even left the victim with a dismembered body. Even the informant at the scene couldn't help but vomit. According to him, the victim was a young man. This victim also had a coin in his mouth, but this person had been killed earlier than Charlie. After the police sergeant discovered Forst at the scene, he tried to confiscate Forst's police badge and gun. In the end, Forst was forced to return the badge. As for the gun, he explained that he didn't have it with him. Forst was suspended from work because of this. 3 years had passed, and he couldn't even enter the police station, but now he understood that he had to find a connection between the 3 victims. Only then could he find a clue. Then the female reporter discovered a clue that led her to a wooden house. According to the investigation, Charlie had lived here for many years. The woman in the house was his landlord. After the landlord left, the female reporter went to Charlie's room on the 2nd floor and used her phone to take pictures on the wall. At the same time, she took a map. At this time, Forst found a way to enter the police station and copied some information about case when his colleagues were not paying attention. Although a colleague discovered Forst because of their previous friendship, he still let Forst leave. In the evening, the two met. Based on the clues collected so far, they discovered a connection between the cases. In the photo, Charlie's father and Maya's grandfather appeared. The photo was taken in 1943. It proved that something must have happened at that time. The grandfather of the man in the photo was definitely among them. Now they also need to confirm the identities of the remaining people in the photo to prevent the next victim from appearing. The next day, the police confirmed that the headless man's body was the deputy prime minister's son. The female reporter quickly noticed this news, but in the news, the police did not reveal detail information about the headless man. At this time, Forrest and his friend went to the location marked on the map. It was a bar located in a private manor. With the help of his friend, Forrest sneaked inside, but he was quickly arrested by security and brought to a one-eyed old man in a wheelchair. The man guessed Forrest's identity at first glance. Thinking that the old man was the murderer, Forrest immediately asked who the next victim would be. But unexpectedly, the man insisted that he was not the murderer. He was just one of the people being targeted. A few days ago, the old man received a package. Inside was the last piece of the photo. Every time the killer was about to strike, he sent a piece of the photo as a warning. It was clear that he wanted to harm all the descendants of the people who appeared in the photo. The old man was also in the photo, but because he had no children, the killer would definitely keep an eye on him. After saying that, Forrest was locked up. His friend was beaten up. Both of them had to find a way to escape after solving this problem. When the security guard was off guard, they climbed into the ventilation duct. At the same time, the old man received the last piece of the puzzle. The killer shot him. After that, Forrest and his friend discussed their escape plan. The friend would attract the security guard's attention, while Forrest quietly dealt with him from behind. But at the right moment, the gun ran out of bullets, and the real killer quickly knocked Forrest unconscious. Forrest witnessed his friend being murdered by a security guard. The killer also killed the two security guards. However, he spared Forrest's life and left a message saying that it was not his turn yet. After waking up, he took the cable car down the mountain and discovered the body of an old man in a wheelchair hanging in the cabin. The old man was tied up in the same way as the other victims. At this time, the female reporter went to the informant's house. She searched everywhere but could not find any trace of the victim. At this time, on the table was the informant's computer. When she opened a video, she saw him checking the radiation meter with a man. When the informant returned home and saw the female reporter coming out, she immediately suspected him of being the killer and quickly sped away. When he returned to the room and discovered that the video on the computer had been viewed, he understood that the female reporter had discovered his secret and quickly drove after her. The female reporter ran straight back to the hotel and managed to lock the door before he could catch up. The informant standing outside the door kept explaining that he knew where the killer was. Finally, the female reporter opened the door. He said that the man in the video was the headless man. The reason he recognized him was because he saw the tattoo on the man's body. He and the headless man used to be lovers, but he didn't want his secret to be exposed and at the same time wanted to find the killer himself to get revenge. However, he ended up committing suicide. After that, Forrest and the female reporter met again. Forrest believed that the people in the photo might have made a mistake and the killer wanted to kill their last descendants. But they didn't understand why the killer would do it now. Even though the photo was taken 60 years ago, Forrest could only think that the killer had been looking for someone for decades. Then the two went to the museum and showed the photo to the manager. After viewing it, he led them to a room with inscriptions on the wall. According to his understanding, at that time, there was a group of people imprisoned here by a gang. The inscriptions on the wall were the last words they left to their children. The manager had tried to find those children, but all the girls among them disappeared. More than 10 years later, a girl named Mai escaped. She stood in the cold wind with a big belly and gave birth to a baby girl right in front of the church. After that, Mai went crazy. She wandered around with her daughter all day, screaming about ghosts with fierce eyes. Obviously, the people in the photo were members of that gang. A few years later, Mai passed away, but her daughter is still alive today. When Forrest heard the name of Mai's daughter, he was shocked because that was the director of the orphanage where he grew up. A few memories immediately appeared in Forrest's mind when he saw the coin. Then, he remembered that the director also had a coin that day. The two hurried to the director's house, but she insisted that she did nothing wrong. Moreover, the police had no evidence against her. Then she told him about Forrest's childhood. When Forrest and his friend sneaked into her office to steal the coin, his friend took all the blame. This made no family want to take him in, and he ended up living in the orphanage forever. At this moment, the friend stepped out from the corner. Forrest realized that it was the director who had directed him to do all this to avenge her mother. She had harmed the descendants of the gang members. However, the friend looked straight at the director and said that she was the daughter of the old man in the wheelchair. Because he had violated her mother in the past, she was his descendant. After saying that, he immediately shot her. During that time, he was completely focused on Forrest. He believed that Forrest had ruined his life. Therefore, he did not want to let Forrest die easily. That was why he told Forrest that it was not your turn yet. Forrest wanted to escape, but the house was on fire. He tried his best to find the people trapped inside. After finding the female reporter, he finally saved her. Then, Forrest told the police chief the whole story, but no one believed him. The female reporter was still in a coma. Forrest was forced to find an artist to draw the killer's face. Because he had changed his name, Forrest could only remember his facial features. After finishing, Forrest asked the artist to send the sketch to the prosecutor. At the same time, time, the investigation agency determined that the gun used to kill the department head was a 9mm pistol. Coincidentally, Forst's gun was also a 9mm pistol. Now, not only did no one believe Forst, but he also became a suspect in the series of murders. When Forst visited the female reporter in the hospital, he discovered that the police chief and many others were looking for him. Forst did not want to be arrested at this time because he was the only one who knew who was behind everything. The police chief chased him to the underground passage, but no matter how Forst explained, the police chief was determined to arrest him. Forst had no choice but to take the opportunity to grab the sheriff's pistol. Then Forst shot him in the thigh and ran away. On the other side, the prosecutor saw another letter on the table. When she saw the portrait of the murderer in the letter, she immediately looked around. Luckily, no one noticed. Then, she went to the bathroom to contact her husband, Rob, but as usual, he still did not answer the phone. The prosecutor was so worried that she burst into tears. She always felt that Rob was very strange, as if he was hiding something shady. The image in the portrait matched Rob. The prosecutor panicked and wanted to throw the portrait away. But thinking again, she realized that doing so here was not safe. If Rob was really the murderer, she had to protect her husband. When the prosecutor came out of the bathroom, she went to the press conference to protect Rob. She pulled out the portrait provided by Forst and announced that he was the real culprit in the serial murder case. This made the police chief standing next to him somewhat confused because Forst was just a suspect. There was no evidence that he was the one behind it all. After the press conference, the police chief went to the prosecutor for questioning. She asked him to arrest Forst and not interfere in other matters. With nowhere else to go, Forst went to his foster mother's house. At this time, he received a call from his ex-girlfriend, but the voice on the other end of the line was the killer's. It was clear that his ex-girlfriend had been kidnapped. Meanwhile, the police chief discovered a computer in the house. Inside was a video recording of his daughter being abused. She was Forst's ex-girlfriend. Hearing the real killer's voice, the police chief understood that Forst had been set up. The two also decided to cooperate in the investigation together, but they did not know that the person they were looking for was the prosecutor's husband, Rob. At this time, the prosecutor still could not contact her husband, but she found a USB in her daughter's toy. Inside was a video recorded by Rob. In it, he admitted that he was behind it all. He just hoped that she could make a choice. However, in reality, she had already made a choice long ago, which was to choose her own family. The next day, the police chief came to the station and was informed that he could not participate in the case because the victim was his daughter, and the police chief would definitely act on emotions. On the other side, Forst took the female reporter to his foster mother's house. Because the hospital was no longer safe, the two watched the video of the police chief's daughter being abused. They tried to find clues from it. They found Rob mumbling something in the video. The female reporter extracted his voice. They realized that what he was reading was the same Bible he used to read when he was a child in the orphanage. Forst thought that he was there now, so a man drove over. On the way, Forst was mentally unstable. Just as he was about to take his medicine, a child suddenly appeared in front of him. Forst immediately parked his car on the side of the road and followed the child. Bewildered, this place brought back his childhood memories. He kept walking until he reached the orphanage. At this time, all his childhood memories suddenly came flooding back. The staff at the orphanage were cruel. If he did not follow their arrangements, he would be beaten. Luckily, Forst was adopted by a family. As for Rob, because of the coin theft, no one would accept him. He was forced to stay and endure constant abuse. In that environment, his personality gradually became distorted, and he began to blame others for his misfortunes. At this time, Forst had entered the building. The informant was locked in an iron cage. The police chief's daughter had stopped breathing. Rob suddenly attacked Forst from behind. Forst picked up the pieces of glass lying on the ground. Meanwhile, Rob told him about the misfortunes he had suffered over the years. Taking the opportunity, Forst stabbed him in the leg with a piece of glass. The two fought fiercely. When Forst saw that Rob had the upper hand, he recklessly hugged him and jumped off the building. Both were unconscious, but Rob woke up first. Immediately after, the police followed Forst's location to find the scene. But when they arrived, Rob had disappeared. The police chief looked at Forst, lying in the ambulance, and tried to find an answer through his eyes as to whether his daughter was still alive or not. But just looking at Forst's sad eyes, he understood that his daughter could not come back. In that moment, Forst quickly took advantage of the loophole to open the handcuffs and escape. He could not let the real culprit escape like that. When he returned to his foster mother's house, he discovered that she had been murdered and the female reporter had also disappeared. Forst was completely desperate. He was in extreme pain when he witnessed the loved ones around him passing away one by one. If this was the ending that Rob wanted, he would have done it. At this time, Job was lying in the back seat of a car, and the driver was the female reporter. This signaled the story of the second season, where the mysteries would be revealed. Today's episode ends here, Please click follow to watch the next episodes.